Ambassador Reed looked up at the sky through the dome of his office. The stars twinkled peacefully above Haven Colony, just as they had for the 15 years since the Alari people had settled here. Their new home was perfect, gentle climate, fertile soil, and far from the busy trade routes where conflicts sometimes erupted. Reed's thin exoskeleton shimmered in the soft light of his desk lamp as he completed the day's reports. His large eyes, adapted to the dim light of the Alari homeworld, blinked slowly. It was almost time to join the evening meal. The alarm shattered the silence so suddenly that Reed dropped his datapad. "Ambassador," the voice of his assistant, Trill, came through the speaker. "Unknown ships have entered the system." Reed hurried to the observation platform, where several colony leaders had already gathered. Their slender forms trembled slightly. The Alari were not built for stress or conflict. "How many?" Reed asked. 7 large vessels," the colony's sensor operator said. "They're not responding to hails." On the main screen, the ships appeared, dark, angular vessels with weapons clearly visible along their hulls. "Vrax warships," said Brooke, the colony's historian. "They've attacked 3 other systems in the past year." Reed felt his heart sink. The Vrax were conquerors, taking resources and enslaving populations. The Alari were farmers and scholars, with no weapons and no defenses. Haven had been chosen specifically because it was of little strategic value. But apparently the Vrax were expanding their territory. "Contact the Galactic Council," Reed ordered. "We need immediate assistance." The communications officer tried repeatedly, but shook her head. "They're blocking our signals. We can't reach the council." The first explosions lit up the night sky as the Vrax destroyed Haven's small orbital platforms. "They'll land troops within hours," Brooke said quietly. Reed stared at the map displayed on the wall. The nearest Galactic Council forces were days away, even at maximum speed. But there was another option, one that made Reed's exoskeleton tighten with anxiety. The human outpost. Just 3 light hours away, the humans had established a small base on the edge of what they called safe space. The Alari Council had been among the most vocal opponents of admitting humans to the Galactic Alliance. Humans were from a Deathworld, a planet with high gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators, and radiation levels that would kill most sentient species. Humans themselves were terrifying by Alari standards. They had internal skeletons of calcium, could run for hours without rest, could survive injuries that would kill an Alari instantly, and had evolved as predators. Their written history was filled with warfare. "There is one option," Reed said slowly. "The human outpost at Waypoint Station." The room fell silent. "They're not Alliance members," Brooke reminded him. "Because we voted against them," Reed replied. "But they're close enough to help before the Vrax can complete their landing." "Would they even come?" Trill asked. "After we rejected them." Reed moved to the emergency communications array, a system designed to work even through basic signal jamming. "Humans have a concept they call duty to rescue," Reed said as he began composing the message. "It transcends political differences. At least, that's what their ambassador told me." His fingers hesitated over the control panel. Calling humans to Haven could have far-reaching consequences. The Alari had kept their distance from humans precisely because they found them unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Another explosion rocked the colony as the Vrax destroyed the main communications tower. Reed sent the message, simple, direct, and honest. "Haven Colony under attack. Civilian casualties. Please help." Whether anyone would answer, he didn't know. But as he watched the Vrax ships begin their landing approach, Reed realized that the scary, unpredictable humans might be the only hope for his people's survival. Captain Jack Turner stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel Thunderchild, watching the stars streak by on the main view screen. His ship was running a standard patrol route along the edge of human space, making sure trade lanes stayed safe from pirates. "Captain," called out the communications officer, a young woman named Lisa. We're receiving an emergency signal. Turner walked over to her station. Source: it's coming from Haven Colony. That's an Alari settlement. Sir. Turner raised an eyebrow. The Alari were known across the galaxy as peaceful farmers and scholars. They were also known for their strong stance against allowing humans into the Galactic Alliance. Put it through, he ordered. The message was brief. Haven Colony under attack. Civilian casualties. Please help. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew the history. 2 years ago, Earth had applied for membership in the Galactic Alliance. The Alari representatives had spoken the loudest against humans, calling them unpredictable, aggressive, and physiologically terrifying. The vote had failed, largely due to Alari influence. Confirm the message, Turner said after a moment. Lisa worked her console. Confirmed, sir. It appears genuine. I'm detecting weapons fire in the Haven system. The attack appears to be in progress. Turner rubbed his chin. Any Galactic Alliance ships responding? None that I can detect, sir. And Haven's main communications array seems to be down. This message came through their emergency backup system. Turner stood straight. Plot a course to Haven. Maximum speed. His first officer, Commander Mike Bell, stepped closer. Sir, we have no orders to enter that system. The Alari made it clear they don't want humans in their space. Turner smiled slightly. They're asking for help now, Mike. And I don't need orders to respond to a distress call. He turned to the ship's AI interface. Ship, broadcast on all EDF emergency channels. The Alari colony on Haven is under attack. Thunderchild responding. Any available vessels in range, please assist. The computer confirmed the message was sent. Turner returned to his command chair and strapped in. All hands, battle stations. We're going in hot. The Thunderchild changed course, its engines pushing to maximum as it headed toward Haven. Within 30 minutes, Turner received responses from 5 other human ships in nearby sectors, all volunteering to divert to Haven. None had orders. None needed them. The Dauntless, Hercules, Sentinel, Valiant, and Defender are all converging on Haven, Lisa reported. ETA between 1 and 3 hours, depending on their starting positions. Turner nodded. Good. We'll need the help. Sir, Mike asked quietly, what exactly are we flying into? Unknown hostiles attacking civilians, Turner replied. That's all I need to know. And if Earth Command questions our actions? Turner shrugged. I'll remind them of maritime law, the oldest rule of the sea, now extended to space. We respond to distress calls. Period. The ship's doctor, an older man named James, joined them on the bridge. The Alari called us Deathworlders during the Alliance vote, he remarked. Said our biology was adapted for violence in ways that frightened them. Turner smiled grimly. Well, Doc, sometimes you need someone scary on your side. As the Thunderchild approached Haven, the tactical officer's console lit up with warnings. Sir, I'm reading 7 warships in orbit around Haven. Their design matches Vrax configurations. Turner's expression hardened. The Vrax were known across several sectors as ruthless conquerors who took what they wanted and destroyed anyone who stood in their way. Looks like the Alari picked the wrong neighbors to mess with, he said. And the Vrax are about to learn why humans are called Deathworlders. The Thunderchild dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Haven system, its weapons systems coming online as 5 more human ships appeared behind it. The response to the distress call had arrived. Commander Dex of the Vrax expansion fleet watched with satisfaction as his ships bombarded the Alari colony below. The weak creatures had offered no resistance, just as his intelligence reports had predicted. Haven would make an excellent forward base for further Vrax conquests. Commander, his sensor officer called out. 6 unknown vessels have entered the system. Dex turned to the main screen. 6 ships had appeared at the edge of the system. They were smaller than his warships, with unfamiliar designs. Identify them, he ordered. His intelligence officer worked quickly at her station. Unknown configuration, sir. They match nothing in our database. Dex studied the newcomers with mild curiosity. The ships were moving into a defensive formation. Whoever they were, they seemed to have military training. Scan for weapons, he ordered. Scanning. They appear armed, sir, but their weapons are unusual, primarily kinetic-based rather than energy weapons. Dex laughed. Kinetic weapons? How primitive. His ship's energy shields would easily deflect such basic attacks. Hail them, he commanded. Let's find out who dares to interrupt our conquest. The communications officer opened a channel. Dex straightened his uniform, his scaled skin gleaming under the bridge lights. Unidentified vessels, Dex said with practiced authority. This system is now under Vrax's control. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. There was a brief pause before a response came through. The alien that appeared on screen looked strange to Dex's eyes. No scales, no proper claws, and oddly rounded features. But its voice carried a calm confidence that was surprising. This is Captain Jack Turner of the Earth Defense Force vessel Thunderchild. We're here at the request of the Alari. Your forces are attacking civilians. Withdraw, or we will remove you. Dex stared at the screen in disbelief, then burst into laughter. His bridge crew joined in. Earth. I've never heard of it, Dex replied. But your bravery is amusing. Look at my fleet, little alien. I have 7 warships to your 6 smaller vessels, and my smallest ship could destroy your largest. The alien captain showed no fear. Last warning. Cease your attack on Haven and leave this system. Dex's amusement turned to anger. No one threatened the Vrax. You clearly don't understand who you're dealing with, Dex snarled. We are the Vrax. We have conquered 17 systems. Our weapons are superior to anything you possess. We're not interested in who you've bullied before, Turner replied. We're only interested in protecting the people who called for our help. Dex turned to his weapons officer. Target the lid ship. Show them what happens to those who defy the Vrax. His weapons officer worked quickly. Target locked. Commander. Fire, Dex ordered. Brilliant beams of plasma energy shot from his flagship toward the human vessel. Dex watched with satisfaction, expecting to see the small ship vaporize instantly. Instead, something unexpected happened. The human ship moved with surprising speed, evading the main force of the blast. What energy did hit it seemed to be absorbed by some kind of reactive armor. Direct hit, sir, but they're still there, his weapons officer reported, confused. Impossible, Dex snapped. Fire again. The second barrage launched, this time from 3 Vrax ships simultaneously. The humans' defensive maneuvers were unlike anything Dex had seen before. Their ships moved as if they weighed half what they should, executing turns that seemed to defy physics. Sir, they're returning fire, the sensor officer shouted. Dex watched in shock as the human vessels launched what appeared to be solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. His energy shields had been designed to disperse energy weapons, not stop physical objects moving at such velocities. 3 Vrax destroyers shuddered as the kinetic rounds tore through their shields and into their hulls. For the first time in his career, Commander Dex felt fear as he realized he might have made a terrible mistake. Who are these creatures? He whispered. Damage report. Captain Turner called out as the Thunderchild shook from another Vrax blast. Lieutenant Ray, the tactical officer, checked her screens calmly. Reactive armor holding at 87%, Captain. Their targeting systems aren't accounting for our countermeasures. Turner nodded. The Vrax weapons were powerful, but they were designed to fight enemies who use similar technology. Human ships were different, built by a species that had spent centuries fighting each other before reaching the stars. Return fire, Turner ordered. Target their lead ship's weapon systems. The Thunderchild's main cannons roared to life. Unlike the energy weapons used by most space-faring races, human ships fired solid metal rounds accelerated to incredible speeds. The kinetic impact was devastating against shields designed to disperse energy, not stop physical objects. On the Vrax flagship, Commander Dex struggled to understand what was happening. "How are they still fighting?" he demanded. "Their ship should be destroyed by now." His tactical officer looked up from his station, fear in his eyes. "Sir, they're using projectile weapons. Our shields aren't designed for that." Another impact rocked the ship. Alarms blared across the bridge. "Weapons systems damage," reported an officer. "We've lost forward cannons." Dex snarled in frustration. "Launch fighters. All ships, concentrate fire on their lead vessel." Across the battlefield, the other human ships had engaged the Vrax fleet. The human vessels moved with surprising agility, their captains executing maneuvers that pushed their ship's structural integrity to the limits. On the Thunderchild, Mike approached Turner. "Sir, the Vrax are launching fighter craft. Hundreds of them." Turner smiled slightly. "Perfect. Now we can show them another human specialty." He turned to his communications officer. "Lisa, signal the Valiant and Defender. Tell them to deploy drones." Within minutes, small unmanned craft poured out from two of the human ships. Each drone was about the size of a small car, but packed with thrusters that made them incredibly fast and agile. The Vrax fighters encountered the human drones in the space between the larger ships. What followed was chaos from the Vrax perspective. The human drones moved in ways that seemed impossible, changing direction instantly without concern for the G-forces that would kill any living pilot. "They're unmanned," Dex realized with shock. "They're using AI-controlled craft." The Vrax fighters, with living pilots inside, couldn't match the maneuverability of the human drones. In minutes, dozens of Vrax fighters exploded as the drones outmaneuvered them with ease. Back on the Thunderchild, Turner watched the battle unfold. "Lieutenant Ray, status of the Vrax flagship." "They'd diverted power to their engines, Captain. I think they're preparing to retreat." Turner shook his head. "We can't let them call for reinforcements. Target their engines and communications array." "Aye, Captain." "Targeting solution ready. Fire." The Thunderchild's main cannons fired again, the massive rounds traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. They struck the Vrax flagship's rear section, tearing through the engine compartment. On his bridge, Dex was thrown to the floor as explosions rippled through his ship. "Engines offline," his engineer shouted. "We're dead in space." Dex couldn't believe what was happening. His mighty warship, disabled by creatures he'd never even heard of before today. "What are these humans?" he demanded. His intelligence officer, who had been frantically searching databases, looked up with horror on his face. "Sir, I found information from a Galactic Council report. Humans come from a planet they call Earth. It's classified as a death world high gravity, extreme temperature variations, high radiation, and deadly predators. The humans evolved there, surviving conditions that would kill most sentient species instantly." Dex stared at the view screen where the human ships continued to tear through his fleet. He had never faced anything like them before. "Deathworlders," he whispered. "We attacked a colony protected by Deathworlders." While the space battle raged above, the situation on Haven's surface was dire. Before the human ships arrived, the Vrax had already landed ground forces. They moved through the Alari colony, capturing civilians and destroying buildings. Lieutenant Anna Moore led the human marine unit that landed on the planet. 50 soldiers in dark combat armor exited their dropships, weapons ready. The air was filled with yellowish gas, a toxic compound the Vrax had released to weaken the Alari. "Lieutenant, our sensors show the gas is corrosive to Alari exoskeletons," reported Sergeant Tom, her second in command. Moore nodded. She tapped her helmet, activating her comm system. "All Marines, standard procedure for toxic environments. The gas won't hurt us much, but it's killing the locals." The Marines moved through the colony without breathing equipment. The gas irritated their eyes and throats, but human biology was tough enough to handle it for the mission duration. Ambassador Reed watched from a sealed emergency shelter as the humans approached. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. They're walking through the gas, he said in amazement, without protection. Moore knocked on the shelter door. Reed hesitantly opened it, then quickly sealed it again after the humans entered. Ambassador Reed. I'm Lieutenant Moore, Earth Defense Force. We're here to help. Reed stared at the human soldiers. Up close, they were even more intimidating than he remembered. Tall, muscular, with internal skeletons that made them look solid and strong. The gas. Reed began. Minor irritant to us, Moore explained. Our homeworld has worse pollutants in some cities. Reed didn't know whether to be thankful or terrified. Moore unfolded a digital map. We need to know where the Vrax troops are concentrated and where they're holding civilians. Brooke, the colony historian, pointed to several locations. Their main force is here, at the colony center. They've turned the community hall into a prisoner camp, and they have heavy weapons here, at the spaceport. Moore nodded. We'll split into 3 teams. Team 1 will free the prisoners. Team 2 will take out their heavy weapons. Team 3 will draw their main force into an ambush. The Aleri leaders looked at each other nervously. Lieutenant, Reed said carefully, there are at least 300 Vrax soldiers in the colony. You have only 50 people. Moore smiled slightly. That just means each of us needs to take out 6 of them. Seems fair. The humans moved out, splitting into their assigned teams. Reed and Brooke followed Moore's team at a safe distance, curious to see these Deathworlders in action. The first Vrax patrol they encountered had 10 soldiers. The reptilian aliens were tall, with natural armor and powerful weapons. They spotted the humans and opened fire immediately. Moore's team didn't hesitate. They moved with shocking speed, taking cover behind buildings and returning fire with precise shots. 3 Vrax fell in the first exchange. Their reflexes are incredible, Brooke whispered. They move so fast. 1 human soldier was hit in the shoulder by Vrax fire. Reed expected him to fall, but the Marine simply switched his weapon to his other hand and continued fighting. He's wounded, Reed exclaimed. How is he still fighting? The firefight lasted less than 2 minutes. When it ended, all 10 Vrax soldiers were down. The humans had suffered only 2 injuries, neither fatal. Moore checked on her wounded team members. Get patched up and keep moving, she ordered. The injured Marines applied medical spray to their wounds and continued with the mission. Reed couldn't believe what he was seeing. On my world, wounds like that would be crippling, he told Moore. Humans heal fast, she replied simply, and we're trained to fight through pain. As they approached the community hall where civilians were held, they saw that the Vrax had set up heavy weapons and shields around the entrance. This will be tougher, Tom said. They've got the position fortified. Moore studied the building. We'll need a distraction. She pointed to a nearby fuel depot. Tom, take 2 people and set charges there. When that blows, we'll hit them from 3 sides at once. Reed watched in awe as the humans prepared their assault. You've done this before, he said. It wasn't a question. Moore checked her weapon. Humanity spent most of its history fighting itself before we reached the stars. We got very good at war. She paused. It's not something we're proud of, but today, it's useful. The charges were set. Moore looked at Reed. You might want to cover your ears, Ambassador. This is going to get loud. In orbit above Haven, the battle had taken an unexpected turn. The Vrax commander had managed to call for reinforcements before the Thunderchild disabled his communications array. 13 more Vrax warships had arrived, bringing their fleet to 20 vessels against the human 6. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Captain Turner studied the tactical display with calm focus. Sir, Lisa called from her station. All 6 of our ships have taken damage. The Sentinel reports their shield generator is failing. Turner nodded. They're adapting to our tactics, but not fast enough. He tapped his command console, opening a channel to all human ships. This is Turner. The Vrax have numbers, but we have speed and precision. Execute Maneuver Omega. Mike looked at his captain with surprise. "Sir, Omega, that's extremely risky." "So is letting these Vraks bombard the colony," Turner replied. "Sometimes you need to be bold." The 6 human vessels began moving in perfect coordination. To the watching Alari observers on Haven, the maneuver looked insane. The human ships accelerated directly toward the center of the Vraks fleet, deliberately placing themselves within range of every enemy weapon. Inside the Thunderchild, warning alarms blared as the ship's systems strained under the acceleration. "All hands brace for high-G maneuver," Turner announced. The crew secured themselves as the ship's internal gravity struggled to compensate for the extreme forces. Any other species would have been crushed by the acceleration. Human bodies, evolved on a high-gravity world, endured what would have killed most sentient beings. The Vraks fleet opened fire with everything they had, expecting to destroy the human ships easily. But the humans had calculated precisely. They threaded their ships through the gaps in the Vraks formation, firing continuously as they passed. At such close range, the human kinetic weapons were devastating. The Vraks ships, clustered together to maximize their firepower, became perfect targets. "Hull breach on Deck 4, reported the damage control officer. "Emergency containment activated." Turner gripped his chair as the ship shuddered violently. "Status of the Vraks flagship." Ray checked her screens through the chaos. "Direct hit to their bridge, sir. They're dead in space." The human ships emerged on the other side of the Vraks formation, all 6 damaged but still fighting. Behind them, 11 Vraks vessels floated powerless or exploded in brilliant flashes of light. On the surface, Lieutenant Moore heard the explosions in orbit and looked up to see flashes through the clouds. Her team had successfully freed the Alari prisoners from the community hall and were now pushing toward the spaceport. "Lieutenant, report from orbit," Tom said, listening to his comm. "Captain Turner says the space battle is turning in our favor." Moore nodded as she checked on an injured Marine. "Good. Tell the team at the spaceport to move fast. We need to capture their landing craft before they can escape." Ambassador Reed had stayed with Moore's team, watching the humans with increasing amazement. He had never seen creatures fight with such determination and skill. "Your people are incredible," he told Moore as they moved toward the spaceport. "The Vraks outnumber you in space and on the ground, yet you're winning." Moore checked her weapons charge. "It's not about numbers, Ambassador. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Predators, disasters, disease. Earth forced us to adapt or die. We got very good at surviving against bad odds." As they approached the spaceport, they saw Vraks soldiers rushing to their ships, attempting to flee the planet. "They're retreating," Tom said with satisfaction. Moore raised her hand, signaling the team to stop. "Perfect. Team 3, status." "In position at the spaceport rear exit," came the reply through her comm. "Team 2, heavy weapons disabled. Moving to support position." Moore smiled grimly. "The Vraks are running into our trap." She turned to Reed. "Ambassador, you might want to stay back for this part." Reed watched as the humans moved into position around the spaceport, cutting off the Vraks' escape routes. The fighting that followed was brief but intense. The human Marines, despite being outnumbered, used the terrain and their superior tactics to devastating effect. In space and on the ground, the battle had reached its turning point. The Deathworlders were winning. 3 weeks passed quickly. The Vraks fleet had been defeated, with the surviving ships retreating after their command vessel was destroyed. On Haven's surface, the last Vraks soldiers had either surrendered or been eliminated by the human Marines. Now representatives from the Galactic Council had finally arrived to assess the situation. Their large diplomatic vessel orbited Haven alongside the human ships, which were still conducting repairs. In the colony's main meeting hall, rebuilt after the battle, Captain Turner and Lieutenant Moore sat across from 3 council representatives. Ambassador Reed and several Alari leaders joined them. The lead council member, a tall being named Jor, looked uncomfortable. "The reports we've received are Concerning. Reed leaned forward. Concerning. The humans save our colony from destruction. Yes, Jort replied carefully, but their methods were extreme. 6 ships defeating a fleet of 20. Marines who fought through toxic gas. The level of violence displayed. The level of violence was exactly what was needed. Reed interrupted. The Vraks came to destroy us. The humans stopped them. Turner spoke calmly. The Vraks won't be back. We tracked their retreat and made sure they understood the consequences of returning. And that's exactly what worries the Council, Jor said. Humans have proven themselves to be formidable warriors. Some members find this unsettling. Moore exchanged a glance with Turner. This was the same argument that had kept humans out of the Alliance in the first place. Reed stood up. I have something to say. All eyes turned to the Alari ambassador. I move that humanity's application to the Galactic Alliance be reconsidered immediately. Jor looked shocked. Ambassador Reed, your people were among the strongest voices against human membership. We were wrong, Reed said simply. They came when we called, without hesitation, despite our previous rejection. The lead council representative shifted uncomfortably. Their methods are concerning. The reports described levels of violence that. Reed raised his hand. The reports described 6 ships defeating a fleet of 20. Marines who fought through poison to protect people who had voted against them. Yes, humanity evolved on a world that made them stronger, faster, and more resilient than most of us. Yes, they have an aptitude for warfare that frightens you. He looked at Turner and Moore with newfound respect. But I've learned something important. There is a difference between being capable of violence and being violent. Humanity is the former. The Vraks are the latter. The council representative nodded slowly. I will convey your recommendation. Later, as the council ship prepared to depart, Turner and Moore stood on the observation deck of the Thunderchild, watching Haven rotate below them. The colony was already being rebuilt, with human engineers helping to repair the damage. Think they'll let us join their club now? Moore asked. Turner smiled. Maybe. But I'm not sure it matters anymore. Why's that? Because they know something now that they didn't before. He paused, looking out at the stars. They know that when someone calls for help, humans answer, and we bring plenty of firepower. On the colony below, Reed stood in his rebuilt office. The shelves held a new item, a small Earth Defense Force emblem, given to him by Lieutenant Moore. Next to it sat the emergency communicator he had used to call the humans. The device now had a small plaque attached to it that read, "To our friends from Earth, who answered when we called." Outside his window, a group of Alari children played in a field. Among them were 2 human children, the son and daughter of engineers who had stayed to help with repairs. The Alari children, once taught to fear humans, now followed the Earth kids with curiosity and admiration. Reed smiled. Perhaps being neighbors with Deathworlders wasn't so frightening after all, especially when those Deathworlders were on your side. ****, the end ****.